Hello, fans, collectors, and investors. Welcome back to Iconic Baseball. I'm Iconic Al. And if you're new to the channel, I want to say welcome. And if you're into collecting the all-time greats, the greatest ball players of all time, and learning about them, then I would highly recommend subscribing. Speaking of the greatest ball players, today's episode, number 66 on my Top 100 Countdown, is a player who threw harder than anybody else during his era. And we always remember the pitchers who throw the hardest, right? I mean, it goes all the way back to the turn of the century with Walter Johnson, who blew hitters away with his fastball. I remember Nolan Ryan from my childhood being ungodly in terms of his strikeout ability. His fastball really was unmatched during his era. But there's a guy in between who threw harder than anybody else during his era. They tried to clock him. They didn't have StatCast back then, but they did their best. There was a motorcycle trial in which he allegedly threw 98.6. There was another time in Chicago where he was allegedly clocked at 104. And then at Griffith Stadium in 1946, he was apparently clocked at 107.6 miles per hour. We don't know how accurate these measurements were. It was a different time. But one thing we know for sure is this man threw harder than anybody else during his time. He led the league in strikeouts 7 times, which also tells you something. And he's a legend. A man known only as the Heater from Van Meter, or Rapid Robert if you prefer. I'm talking about the great Bob Feller.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
That's the one that opens the bullseye. I guess we're all set. Here's the test that shows which is the faster, the racing motorcycle or the pitched ball. Coming down the highway at a speed of 86 miles per hour, the policeman crosses the pitching line, and there they go. Bingo! Too fast for you? Well, let's go back and do that scene over again for you. Now we'll see how you look in slow motion. Yes, sir, he's still going 86 miles an hour, but the ultra-speed camera slows him down for you to see better. There he goes over the line, and look, Bob Feller gives him a head start of 10 feet before he throws the ball. Watch the ball now. Bob's pitch is going all the way. It breaks the target right through the bullseye, a few feet in front of the motorcycle. Well, where are you, Mr. Policeman? Oh, there you are. I don't know what your speedometer reads now, but that ball was traveling better than 100 miles an hour. That's plenty fast. You know what happens when you race a motorcycle, Policeman Bob. Well, this time, we'll call it even if you'll put your Bob Feller on that baseball.
And here he is, the legendary pitcher from Van Meter, Iowa, the great Bob Feller. During his career, which spanned from 1936 to 1956, with a career record of 266 wins, 162 losses, career ERA of 3.25, ERA plus of 122, 2,581 strikeouts. As we have already established, he was a dominant fastball pitcher. He led the league in strikeouts 7 times. And the numbers that I just recited, including a 63.5 WAR, don't even tell the tale with Bob Feller, because he is one of these guys, like I've done with previous players on the countdown, including Johnny Mize, Hank Greenberg. He has spent a significant portion of his career in the military. We're talking just about 4 years of the prime of his career he spent serving his country. So as I did with some of those other players, like Greenberg and Mize, I've done a little bit of a ghost addition and come to really some conclusions of what kind of pitcher Bob Feller really was. He missed out on a few of those big milestones, such as 300 wins, 3,000 strikeouts, because of those years he missed. And so if you look at his WAR, for example, 63.5, and you add back about 7 WAR per season, which is fair for the kind of pitcher he was, you get, and you use 4 seasons missed, you get to about a 91 WAR for Bob Feller. So instead of the 63.5 WAR that he currently stands at, it's really fair to think of Bob Feller more in that category of a 90 WAR pitcher, which really puts him up in the inner circle. With wins, you can add back 15 wins a season to his current total of 266, and you get to a pitcher who won 326 games. So really, he should have been included in that type of category, a 300-win kind of pitcher. And then for strikeouts, he was clearly a dominant force who struck out a lot of batters. And if you add back kind of an average for Feller, which is about 200 strikeouts a season, he really belongs up around 3,381 strikeouts. So really, he definitely would have gotten to that 3,000 strikeout mark if he would have had those seasons back. So really, I kind of think of Bob Feller in the 90 WAR category. I kind of think of him as a 300-game winner and a 3,000 strikeout guy. Another cool fact about Bob Feller, he struck out his age once. He came up to the majors at age 17. He was pitching for the Cleveland Indians at age 17. And at that age, he struck out 17 batters, which is crazy. Even to be in the majors at 17, let alone strike out 17 men in a game. Another fun fact, who's the other pitcher who's done that, struck out their age? And that was Kerry Wood. Kerry Wood struck out 20 batters at age 20. Just a fun fact that I thought was cool. So Bob Feller got to one World Series, and he was on that World Series winning 1948 Cleveland Indians team. So kind of got the ring, so you can kind of check that mark. He's done that. And just generally one of the greatest pitchers in baseball history when you dial down into the numbers and dig down. He really was, in my opinion, one of the inner circle starting pitchers in baseball history. Certainly one of the most dominant with that fastball. All right, well, let's look at some of these items here. Let's start with the ball, actually. The baseball, it's being displayed here as a Bob Feller signed baseball, but it's actually a Johnny Mize that I actually displayed during my Johnny Mize video. So it's actually a Johnny Mize ball, and it kind of kills two birds. Got a Mize and a Feller on the side panel. And you have Enos Slaughter on the other side panel. 3 Hall of Famers, 1 ball, but one of those ones that I love, because these guys kind of all came from the same era, all served their country also. And so this is my primary item for Bob Feller, and one of my all-time favorite cards. I know I say that a lot, but basically every card that I have kept in my collection is one of my favorite cards. But this is a 1952 Topps Bob Feller with a beautiful Mint 9 autograph in ballpoint pen. The card is not high grade. It's a 1.5. But I don't really care. Its centering is reasonably good. You have a little bit of staining along the left border. But look at that image. Beautiful registration. Crisp image of Bob Feller. It's been loved over the years. Oops. But it's just a beautiful example of a 52 Topps. This is actually my only 52 Topps card. The mantle's a little out of my price range, so I figured grab a nice presenting copy of that Feller with a beautiful autograph on it. Population-wise, there's over 1,600 of those graded in total. But if you look at signed copies, much more limited. To have an original 52 Topps signed by Bob Feller, there are something like 35 of those in existence that have been graded and signed. So really, really rare, and kind of hard to come by now, to find an authentic 52 Topps Bob Feller with an autograph on it. And he is passed, so there aren't any more being signed. And one of those cards that I'm just very, very honored to have in my collection. Well, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please follow my countdown, subscribe, and until next time, everyone, keep collecting and stay iconic.